I get to take care of and preserve a building that was a gift to the city of Chicago almost 85 years ago.
It's a beautiful building. It's a building that everybody remembers when they're young, and it's just a fantastic space.
The building broke ground in November of 1927, and they finally opened their doors in May of 1930.
The Rotunda was one of the first big architectural jobs that we've actually gotten with the Shedd. They are very forward-thinking when it comes to energy and sustainability, but they also have a great respect for the historical fabric of the building that they're in.
So we have a long-term strategic capital plan for the aquarium itself, and we received a grant to help us with the replacement of the dome.
I know in 1960 sometime it was replaced with wire glass.
We were having issues with it. There was leakage and things that needed to be addressed.
We had to stay very aware, again, of the historic requirements working with landmarks in Illinois. It was a big challenge to get something that's going to match today's modern standards and get that historic emphasis on those horizontals, which was our main focus.
Restoring the glass rotunda to match the original historic fabric of the building with new materials that perform better. That was the most unique aspect of this.
Modern materials, try to capture some energy savings, but try to make it look like it did the original dome in 1929.
Go with 40 and a half.
This was a project that kind of fell right into our wheelhouse of what we do and what our reputation is of what Berglund does.
It was very clear that they were the best company for the job. Their creative thinking outside of the box to get access to the top of the rotunda was a fantastic idea, and they knew it almost from day one.
Originally, when we bid the first round, we were in with a crane. Typically, when they have a crane on site, they have to clear everyone out of that section of the building.
We cannot just say, well, we're going to shut the whole reef tank down for the whole summer to do a construction project.
Using the scaffold ultimately seemed like the way to go due to the continued access, and it really provided the least interruption to the shed.
The scaffolding was one of the innovative approaches that set them aside from all the other contractors.
There was, counted one day, there were 150 steps, and there was between 250 and 300 linear feet of scaffolding that made its way all the way across the roof and around the rotunda.
Once the scaffold was up at the end of the spring, it really moved along very well.
Part of the project was to remove the cresting. Each section of the cresting weighs 900 pounds. There were 5 sections that made up each run of cresting.
So they came up with this design with this machine that bolted onto the roof section and lifted them up. They did their work and then they set them back down.
And then they would start rebuilding things. And they were able to put the new system back in place relatively quickly. Probably about 20 days per section.
You were working over a fully occupied space, one of the largest revenue areas, without having the people inside really know we're above.
Sergio and I, who's our project manager, were bracing ourselves for a really tough project. The Berglund team made this project easy for us.
Communication, it was very open with the group that we had. We had, from the owner down to the architect to Berglund to our subs.
We actually would have weekly meetings to make sure that everything was going well. We saw things that were coming up. And it's that dialogue that really mattered. And Berglund did that, I will say, very well.
Everybody wanted the end goal. They wanted to do something that was great, that looked great, that lasted, that was energy sustainable, and you're working on the Shedd.
This was definitely a big feather in my cap. To be able to work on any one of the city's historical buildings is quite an opportunity, and to work with the Shedd was fantastic.
It's a jewel sitting out here on the lake. And the real special touches actually it was the Berglund team.
We involve ourselves with the building. We understand the owner, the use of the building, the history of the building.
We just had to do our best to ensure that none of this got broken, which we did.
They helped make this what could have been very difficult for us. They turned it into a really easy project for us.
When you think of the city of Chicago, it's an infant, in its history. So a lot of these buildings here that were built in the turn of the century or early 1900s, these really are the first round of extensive repairs and restoration and preservation.
I think companies like Berglund have picked up on that and realized that this is a necessity when it comes to architecture, and they are one of the best that can do it.
we've got a huge responsibility, you know, to the building, but to society and to history. So it is a sense of pride that we're here today taking on that responsibility to do it right.